I want to prove to you guys that, so the first thing I want to prove to you guys that is that multiplication and division are very similar. I mean, they're opposites, but they're related to each other, right? So for example, okay, 4 times 2, okay, is the same thing as 4 divided by 1/2. Did you know that? Okay, and I'll prove that to you, okay, that they're kind of interchangeable. Or actually, maybe it's easier if I go the other way here. Let's change these, okay? Let's say that 4 divided by 2 is the same as 4 times 1/2. Really? Well, think about it, right? 4 divided by 2 is 2. 4 halves, so 1/2, 2 halves, 3 halves, 4 halves, right? 4 over 1, 4 over 2, which is equal to 2. Same thing, right? This is the concept that we like to call the reciprocal. You guys have probably heard that before, okay? Reciprocal. Okay, say reciprocal to yourself. You don't have to unmute to say reciprocal, right? The reciprocal shows that, again, division and multiplication are very much related, right? So dividing by a number is the same as multiplying by the flip of that number, right? I proved it right here. 4 divided by 2 is the same as 4 times 1/2. So when someone says, hey, can I have half of something? It's the same thing as someone saying, hey, can you divide that in half? Or divide that by 2. Sorry. So if I said, hey, I want half of that sandwich, right? You cut it in half and you get half, right? Or you say, hey, I want some of that sandwich, and someone says, okay, and they split it in 2, divide by 2, and you still get the same amount, right? So that's the concept that we need to understand for this lesson, that these things are similar, okay? All right, so how does this work in fractions, right? So far, all we've done is deal with really whole numbers, but there was that one blueberry muffin problem from the homework 2 days ago where there's fractions, and so I'm going to show you how to do that. Again, this is just an example that you can just watch. You don't have to write down. So let's say we have something like this. Normally, we have whole numbers. Here's a fraction on top of another fraction. This is what we call a complex fraction, because it's complex. There's a fraction on top of a fraction. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, I'm going to say 1/4 divided by 2 instead. Notice, this is a division bar, which means I can change it to the division sign. Okay. So then I can say, well, you know what? I don't like dividing. I want to multiply instead. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to say, okay, well, 1/4, instead of dividing, I'm going to change that to multiplication. And instead of 2, or I call that 2 over 1, I'm going to change that to 1/2. Because isn't that what we just did? Instead of dividing by 2, I multiply by 1/2. Oh, yeah. See how it works? And then my final answer then is 1/8. So that's what we're doing today, complex fractions. So let's give you guys some examples to do, okay? So on the left side, go ahead and write down simplify complex fractions. Right? Simplify complex fractions. And again, I recommend having like a different colored pen so I can show you the steps, and then the steps, you'll know what you're supposed to do while using that different colored pen, okay? So here we go. Letter A. Remember, whenever I give you a letter, that's the ones that you write down, all right? So let's say we have a fraction like this. We've got a fraction over a whole number. Okay. 2/3 divided by 6. So for example, hey, I've got 2/3 of the cake left. There are 6 people here. How do I give everyone an equal amount? Okay, so follow along with me. First step is to rewrite 2/3 divided by 6 over 1. So step 1 is to rewrite the problem. Okay, make sure you write that on the side, rewrite, so you know what you're doing. We're changing, instead of division with a fraction bar, we're doing division with a division sign. Second step, we keep the first part, we change division to multiplication. So division becomes multiplication. And then 6 over 1, okay, becomes 1 over 6. And now Cameron asked a good question. He said, where's that 1 come from? Okay, 6 over 1, like this 1 right here. Yeah, the 1, remember the 1 is always there, right? 6 wholes, 6 over 1. So any whole number actually has 1 as a fraction. So that's a great question that was asked, right? So 5 is the same as 5 over 1, 5 wholes. Okay, 10 over 1. Okay. So then we do, and when we flip it over, it's called the reciprocal. So basically, think of it this way, right? Like my calculator, right now it's face up. I change one thing, which means I flip it, and then I do the reciprocal, so I flip it back. So basically, it's like you didn't do anything yet. That's what we want to do, right? If you flip one thing and then flip it over again, then you're good to go. If you turn your shirt inside out and then turn it right side in again, then you're good, right? It's back to being a regular shirt. So if you have to make sure that you don't just flip one thing, otherwise you'll get in trouble. Okay, so last step then is to simplify. So I know some things cancel here. I can say, okay, well, 2 and 6 cancel, right? 2 goes into both. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 6 divided by 2 is 3, right? If you remember how to cross cancel. All right, and so my final answer is 1 times 1 is 1. 3 times 3 is 9. So my last step was to simplify. Okay? And notice I work straight down. I have my equal signs this way. You want to work down as opposed to having your numbers go all the way across your page, because as things get more complex, you're going to run out of space there. Okay, so let's have you guys try one. Let's see if we can do another one here. If you think you got it, I mean this might be a little bit of a review. You can go ahead and go faster than me, but if not, you can hang out with me here. So 12, big fraction bar, divided by 3/4. Go ahead and try to do this one on your own. I'm going to give you a little bit of a head start, and then I'm going to start working on it.
There's 1/4, right?
3/4. Twelve divided by 3/4. All right, so some of you guys are already getting it, but I'll do it. So again, step 1, rewrite 12. I'm going to put that as 12 over 1 divided by 3/4. Rewrite. Next, change division to multiplication. So 12 over 1, division becomes multiplication. And then do reciprocal, right? Reciprocal of 3/4 is 4/3. And then last step, simplify. All right, so I know that becomes 12 and 3 can cancel out. That becomes a 1. That becomes a 4. Yeah. Lastly, 4 times 4 is 16. 1 times 1 is 1, so 16, or just 16 over 1, or just 16. By show of hands, was anyone able to get that on your own? Anybody able to do that by yourself? Raise your hand. Jeffrey says yes. Justin says yes. Okay, good. Allison's good. Wilson, Matthew, Ida, good. Okay. All right. Sophia's good. Awesome. Cameron says good. Amanda says good. Okay, good. So it's pretty. The process is the same. Rewrite, reciprocal, simplify, over and over again, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to practice those over and over again. Okay. Let's see. Let's do another example here. Just something else to get us. All right. So let's move on. So it's actually easier when you have like fraction on top of fraction, but we'll go over into that. Let's go into one that's a little bit harder. Okay. So all right. What if we have mixed numbers? And just a quick note: these are problems you do without a calculator. It's actually better to do by hand because fractions within the calculator are actually kind of hard, and we want fractions as answers. So when you start with fractions, you'll end with fractions. If we start with decimals, then you end with decimals. That's kind of the rule of thumb there. Okay, so mixed numbers. Mixed numbers, remember, have have fractions and whole numbers. So here, let's do one together here. Let's see. 1 and 1/3 divided by 1/4. 1 and 1/3 divided by 1/4. Okay, so we're going to do this the same way, but there's one more extra step. So first thing we're going to do, we're still going to rewrite. So 1 and 1/3 divided by 1/4. So step 1 is to rewrite. Now here's the problem is before we do reciprocal, we have these mixed numbers. And I'll tell you this, mixed numbers are the worst. They're the worst to deal with. So I'm actually going to change that mixed number into an improper fraction. So 1 and 1/3 becomes 4/3. You guys see that? So I can make that a little more clear if you want. Okay, so the thing that changed was 1 1/3 became 4/3. Oops. Yeah? And then you do the same steps. Then you do reciprocal and simplify. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so we've got reciprocal, which is going to be, so 4/3 times, right? 4/1. And then simplify, which is your last step. So 4 times 4 is 16. 3 times 1 is 3. Now, you might think, oh, I'm not done yet. You actually are done. Okay? You could write it like this, or if it really bugs you, you can change it back to mixed number, and this would be 5 and 1/3. I would accept either of these answers. 16/3 is okay. If you can't divide it anymore, an improper fraction that can't be divided is okay. So far, so good? Not too bad? So the only trick here is, again, you got to change your mixed number to an improper fraction. And if you can do that, then you're in good shape. Okay, so let's have you guys do one. Letter D. This one will be a little bit harder. 22.5 divided by 3/4. 22.5 divided by 3/4. All right, so I'm gonna start working on it. Again, you should be working on it right now. Don't wait for me. If you are confused, you can wait for me and like, okay, I'm gonna wait till Mr. Leon explains it. But otherwise, you can kind of move forward and move ahead. So here we go. So first step is to rewrite. (22 and a half divided by 34). Next, improper. So 22 times 2 is 44. And then plus 1 is 45. Now, some of you might be smart enough to be able to, or quick enough that you can do all of this in one step. You can do the reciprocal step and the improper step in one step. I recommend that you do it in 2 steps, but if you can do it faster, that's fine. Okay. After I do improper, now I'm going to do reciprocal. And I like to call it reflipical, so that means reflipical, so you know that it flips over. So that's going to be 45 over 2 times 4 over 3. Someone's asking, how do I get 45? Remember, 22 and a half. So in order to change a mixed number to a improper, multiply the big number by the denominator. So 22 times 2 is 44. And then add one more. Add the numerator, 45. So it's kind of like if I said, this I'll just do on the side. You don't have to write this down. Like, for example, if I said 2 and 1/2, right? That's the same thing as 1 whole, 2 wholes, and a half. Well, 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1. So that's the same thing as 5 halves, right? Which is correct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, back to the problem. Now I got to simplify a little bit. This cancels with this. So 1, 2. And then this actually cancels too. 45 and 3. That goes in once. That goes in 15 times. Final answer should be 15 times 2, which is 30. Anybody get 30? All right. Some of you guys are getting it. That's good. Good. Some of you guys are getting that. That's good. Awesome. Okay. I know these numbers are a little bit big. Okay. So we can do fractions. We can do mixed fractions. We do all that sort of stuff. Okay. So this is, I'm going to stop there. Okay. Your homework is only doing this stuff.